What's up, guys? Welcome back to Chiefs Chat. And here we are back at it again with another edition of Resign or Let Walk. This is becoming somewhat of an annual tradition. Off-season is finally upon us. I think March 16th, I believe, is the day that the free agency period officially begins for the NFL. Correct me if I'm wrong. Could be wrong. But yeah, the Chiefs, we've got some decisions to make. You know, some pretty tough ones at that, if you ask me. You know, quite a few of these players were huge for our football team. You know, they made big contributions. So we got to decide whether or not we want them back on the team or if we feel like we can get somebody better. Or at the very least, somebody who is competent enough to replace these players. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it, okay? The big one. Right off the top, man. Top of the list. We got Orlando Brown Jr., okay? This is a pretty big one. Orlando Brown Jr., one of our biggest signings after our Super Bowl 55 loss. And I think it was a good one. You know, it's really panned out for us so far. Orlando Brown, he's been to a couple of Pro Bowls, you know, and he's been really good for us. You know, he had a very, very good performance in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. But if you guys remember, like I did, last offseason was when we were really trying to get his deal restructured. But we were not able to find a good agreement. You know, we weren't able to come to an agreement on a contract, so we did have to, you know, place a franchise tag on him last season, and that is what he played under during last year. So we're at a point with him now where, you know, we got to decide if we can meet an agreement. You know, if we can come to a nice solid you know, compromise here with the contract. And I feel like if we can do that, then this is a guy who I'd love to see back on the team, you know? It's just with him, the thing is just don't overpay, you know? I just think the Chiefs, you know, being the Super Bowl, you know, contending team that we are, we've established ourselves as such a fantastic franchise. I mean, who wouldn't want to play for the Chiefs? That's kind of the thing, you know? So with that being said, I think if we lose a guy like Orlando Brown in free agency, we have that, you know, still under our belt. So I think there's another guy who can maybe say, hey, I want to go get a Super Bowl ring. I'm going to go play for the Chiefs, you know? So I think, I'm not trying to say he's entirely replaceable because he's a fantastic left tackle. But I think we can find a guy, you know, if Orlando Brown Jr. can agree to our price, I think we can find a guy who can kind of step in there and at least be solid at our left tackle position. So, you know, Orlando Brown Jr., I would love to see him back on the team, but like I said, it just kind of depends. It kind of depends on whether or not he can agree on the contract that we throw at him. It's just a big one. It's kind of the only one on this list where I'm just like, I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know, you know? It's kind of a toss-up. But moving on to our second player on this list, okay, Frank Clark, and unfortunately, we do already know what will be occurring with Frank Clark. He will be released by the Chiefs. If you ask me, I hate to say it, you know, because I love Frank Clark. You know, I think he's a great player, especially, you know, in the playoffs. You know, let's not forget, I think he's third or second all-time in playoff sacks, which is nothing to look past. That's fantastic. And that just really goes to show how dominant he's been for the Chiefs in the postseason. But during the regular season, he just hasn't been fantastic, let's be honest. You know, Frank Clark, I was a big fan of the signing at the time, you know. That was back when we threw massive money at Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu, because we needed to improve our defense. You know, and geez, man, I mean, just thinking back at those years, Brett Veach just does such a great job, because that was after the 2018 season when we fell short to the Patriots. Brett Veach just knows how to, boom, just go out there and get things done. I love that about him. He's just a fantastic GM. But anyway, Frank Clark threw him a massive contract, and he's still working through that giant deal that we gave him. And I think at this point, it's just not really worth it for the Chiefs. It's just not worth it. To be able to get rid of that cap space, or sorry, to be able to create that cap space, I should say, it's just big for our team. It's really big for our team. I think Frank Clark has kind of, you know, come to a point in his career where he's just not at that level. You know, he's not really a guy who should be making that much money. You know, nothing over $15 million a year, if you ask me. I think, you know, the next team that he signs with probably won't be willing to give him more than that. I'd be surprised if they did. But, you know, Frank Clark, I loved what he did for this team. I loved what he did for this franchise. You know, my respect for him just goes beyond words. You know, I can't even describe it. It's just fantastic. And I said the same thing about Tyreek Hill when he left the Chiefs. You know, my respect for Tyreek, even though he did leave the Chiefs, you know, almost a backstab type move, you know, taking more money to go to Miami, I still have so much respect for him because, you know, these players, these guys, you know, Frank Clark, Tyreek Hill, even Tyrann Mathieu, you can throw him in that group. You know, they've helped us win these Super Bowl championships, and gosh, I mean, you can't put a price on that. You just can't. You cannot. So Frank Clark, it was great. It was great having you on the Chiefs team, and we'll never forget you, Frank. We will never forget the Shark. Just a fantastic player, especially when it matters the most. He just knows how to step up, and you could tell he just loved this team, loved this organization. Just have so much respect for the guy, Frank Clark. Good luck, you know, balling out for whatever team you end up playing for next year, you know. Fantastic. Moving on, Juju Smith-Schuster, resign, okay? Enough said, man. We got to get this guy back on the team. And it's going to be a team-friendly contract, we already know, you know, because we signed him last season for $10 million. You know, that's not a lot. Really, that's not a lot at all. And given the fact that Juju Smith-Schuster, he had a couple of games where he couldn't play, you know, due to injury and those type of things. And so I feel like because of that, you know, we're going to be, his market value isn't necessarily as high as I think it should be, because I just think when he's on the field, he's a fantastic player. But because of the fact that he's been getting banged up and injured, you know, I think it just drops his market value low enough for us to just, like, this is just such a great deal for us. This is such a fantastic deal. Get him back on the team. I say at least 3 or 4 years. Let's make this guy a Chief, man. Let's just give him that title, man. He's just, you know, so far he's played most of his career in Pittsburgh, but let's just get this guy back on the team. He did fantastic when he was on the field last season. He just did. He was a great player. He was our wide receiver 1. You got to give him respect for that. He stepped in and he provided. He was that player on the Chiefs. He filled that role, you know. Did a really good job. Okay, so I think Juju Smith-Schuster, bring him back immediately. I love the guy. Carlos Dunlap. You know, this is an interesting one. He's a bit older, but honestly, I'm in favor of us bringing him back. I really liked what he did for this Chiefs football team. I was a huge fan of the way he played. When he was on the field, he did really good. And I think, especially now that we've lost Frank Clark, maybe we could use him at the very least for some extra depth, because I just feel like when he's on the field, we're a pretty solid defense. Like, we just got a pretty solid defensive line. And another thing Carlos Dunlap did really, really good this season, you know, he's just fantastic at getting his hands up and batting down those balls. He's just so great at it. I saw him do it a few times during the season, and I just love seeing that level of play from a guy who's, you know, what is he, 35, 36? I mean, he's just doing great things for a guy his age, still productive. And so I'm a big fan of us bringing him back. I really liked what he did for this Chiefs team. So bring back Carlos Dunlap. Derek Nottie. Now, he's an interesting player. I like Derek Nottie. He's just kind of in the mix. Like, we've just got a few defensive tackles who I just feel like are just kind of on our team, and they're not exceptional, and we're still kind of waiting to see them blossom. And I think Derek Nottie's one of those guys where we just haven't seen it yet. And honestly, I might be in favor of giving, you know, Colin Saunders, a few more opportunities. So Derek Nottie is a guy who I would not be upset to see the Chiefs let go. But again, it just kind of depends on the price. You know, if he wants like $1 million, just might as well bring him back, I guess. But I have a feeling he might be looking for a little bit more than that, and that's just not worth it, I think, for us. Just, I don't know about that. You know, because we got a couple of guys who I think, you know, could deserve a few more reps. You know, I'm pretty high on Colin Saunders. Why can't I say his name? Colin Saunders. I'm pretty high on him. I really like him, and I think he could really potentially be a guy who could really blossom for us. I just like the way he plays. So Derek Nottie, sorry, but Andrew Wiley, we got to bring him back. Come on, we can't not bring back this guy Andrew Wiley. You know, he has surprised me. He has shocked me with his level of play here on this Chiefs offensive line. You know, this guy, you know, earlier in his career, he was a guard. You know, he really excelled at, you know, I think it was right guard is what he played primarily. But here he is, you know, we took a risk by throwing him at right tackle, and he's just done great. He's been fantastic. And Andrew Wiley, I mean, he's been on the Chiefs. He's one of our longest tenured players. I just feel like he's a guy who we got to bring back, a good locker room guy. And, I mean, just take a look at the way he played in the Super Bowl. I mean, if that doesn't tell you that this guy's a great player, I don't know what does. I mean, he's just fantastic in that Super Bowl matchup. I just got to give him that contract. I just feel like we got to bring him back. He's been really good for us. So, Andrew Wiley, okay. Next guy, Ronald Jones. You know, I just think he's a guy who we're not interested in bringing back. Our running back room is one that I feel like we're starting to really hone in on the guys that we want on our team. We've got Isaiah Pacheco. We've got Jerick McKinnon. Those are our guys. I really think those are our two guys. That's our 1-2 punch. Ronald Jones was a guy who we brought in during this past offseason last year, who we were pretty excited about, but he just did not see the field very much. Didn't end up really doing much for this Chiefs team. And he was a guy who wanted to be traded at the deadline, and we weren't able to get that deal done. But now, you know, I think we just let him go. You know, just let him see if he can find a good roster that he can excel on, because I don't think it's going to be this roster. I think we've got too many other guys who are able to make contributions to our team. So, Ronald Jones, see ya. Michael Burton, he's our fullback. Let's just bring him back. You know, let's get him back on the team. He's been really good for us as our fullback. You know, he doesn't see the field a lot, but when he's on the field, he does a job. Let's just bring him back. You know, get him back on the team. Blake Bell is a guy who I don't know about Blake Bell, because we've got Noah Gray, we've got Jody Fortson, and obviously we've got Travis Kelce. And Blake Bell has really served as just kind of like our quarterback sneak tight end. If you guys remember, he's, you know, the guy who, you know, after the injury to Patrick Mahomes a few years ago on that quarterback sneak play, he's the guy who we've kind of replaced Patrick Mahomes with. We like to do that, you know, we like to motion him out to the right and then get him back, you know, under center real quick, then boop, quarterback sneak. And that's really all he's really done. I think we could probably find another guy who could do that just as well. All it is just, you know, snapping the ball and then going forward. So yeah, he's a guy who I wouldn't be upset if we let go of him, especially considering the fact that we've got so many great players in our tight end room. You know, Jody Fortson's fantastic. You know, I think he's a guy who could be a starting tight end on another roster. He's just so good. I love the way he plays. And then of course you got Noah Gray, who I think has been really good as a backup tight end. So yeah, you know, I think we've got one of the best tight end rooms in the NFL. I think Blake Bell is a very good backup tight end. I just think on our roster, he's the tight end number 4, which I think doesn't really serve him very well for his career. I think he could find a different team where he could find, you know, a more prominent role. So, Jerick McKinnon's up next. I mean, come on. How do we not bring back Jerick McKinnon? If we somehow lose this guy in free agency, it's going to be, you know, detrimental. I mean, this guy, he's just been so great for us. And look, I'll be honest, okay? I'll admit it. Last season when he was up, okay, I was, you know, last season, let me clarify. Let me give you guys the proper context. Last season, he was a free agent for the Chiefs, okay? We only gave him a 1-year deal a couple of years ago, and then we ended up re-signing him on another 1-year deal, and here we are now. He's a free agent once again. Last season, despite him really stepping up in the playoffs for us, I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of Jerick McKinnon, and I said we should let him walk. That was a big mistake on my part, and let that serve as a lesson to everybody watching. I could be wrong about a lot of these, you know, I don't know. But Jerick McKinnon, I mean, come on. At this point, I'm going to give him the respect. I'm going to give him more. I'm just going to give him all the respect that I feel like he deserves, you know, because he's earned that respect. You know, you could argue he earned that respect last season, and I'm just, you know, I'm just mean. I don't know. But I think we got to bring him back. Let's get him back for at least 2 seasons. Let's not give him a 1-year deal. I think he's a guy who's, you know, older. He's getting up there in age, but I think he's looking for some security. You know, him being 30, 31 years old. So let's give him that security because he deserves it on this team. Let's not forget, this guy was a playoff captain. This guy was a playoff captain for the Chiefs. He's a locker room guy. People love him. He brings the energy. You know, and I think Isaiah Pacheco, he's our guy. Hand him the rock, and he's going to just pound it. And then you've got Jerick McKinnon, kind of a sneaky player. A guy who's going to go out to the flat, catch a quick ball from Patrick Mahomes and take it. Take it and run with it. You know, he's a guy who I think just fits our offense so well. You know, when we're in a 3rd and long situation, just give him a screen and he'll make it happen. We've seen it time and time again. Jerick McKinnon is a weapon on this offense. And if we don't bring him back, I just think we're losing a lot there. You know, I think we really are. So, Jerick McKinnon, come on, let's lock him up. Mecole Hardman. Ah, jeez. I don't want to see him go. I just love Mecole Hardman. I don't want to see him go, but realistically, you know, I could see the Chiefs getting rid of Mecole Hardman in this situation. You know, let's not forget Sky Moore really blossomed in the playoffs. You know, Kadarius Toney is now on the roster. Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. We've got a lot of really good receivers. Mecole Hardman, you know, if he does stay, he'll, you know, once again probably end up being that 3-4 wide receiver. you know, I could see Mecole Hardman and the Chiefs looking at the situation and saying, you know, let's see if we can ship him off to another team. Let's see if he can sign with, you know, maybe the Ravens or something like that, a team that doesn't have a lot of wide receiver depth, and let's see if he can blossom somewhere else, because we're just kind of in a situation now where we've got a lot of really good wide receivers, and as much as I love Mecole Hardman, I just don't know if he's really going to blossom into the player that I really think he could be. I just love him. I love him with all my heart, okay? But it might be time for us to say goodbye to Mecole, as much as I hate it. I just love, you know, I was a big fan of him. The second, you know, he became a Kansas City Chief. You know, I checked out his college. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't see a lot of what he did in college at Georgia, but you know, coming to Kansas City, I just fell in love with the dude. You know, as a football player, and he's just a fantastic player. I really do think that given a greater opportunity, he could really blossom into a fantastic receiver. And I'm not sure if that opportunity is here on the Chiefs. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be upset to see him go, but I would cry. So with that being said, I mean, obviously I'm an advocate for us bringing him back, but again, you know, I am kind of saying, you know, at the same time, like maybe not. Deon Bush was a guy who didn't see the field a lot, but he was good on special teams. And when he did see the field, he actually wasn't bad. You know, former Bears guy, I think we got him, you know, pretty much right before the season began. And you know, he's been really good on special teams, so I would not be upset if we brought him back. Juan Thornhill, I really love Juan Thornhill. You know, honestly, I think, you know, because of the injuries, you know, his value hasn't been as great as I feel like it should be. But when he's on the field, he's pretty solid. So I really hope that we bring him back. I think at the very least he serves as good depth, you know, and he's a starter type guy, man. He's got, you know, he can play at that level. You know, he's definitely a bona fide starter on this football team. So he's a guy I really want to see us bring him back. Justin Watson, I mean, how can we not bring him back? You know, he's another wide receiver on this list where it's like, you know, same with Mecole, where maybe he gets more opportunities on the team. But let's not forget, Justin Watson was doing nothing before he joined the Chiefs. You know, he was just kind of sitting on the Buccaneers practice squad, you know, not really doing much. But now that he's on the Chiefs, he's one of our top deep threats. And we've seen it time and time again during the regular season. He's caught a couple of nice footballs, man. He's just a good player. He's just a great guy to have on the team. Let's bring him back. Love it. Colin Saunders, okay? I was talking about him, okay? When I was talking about Derek Nottie, I feel like we got to pick one of these two guys at the very least. And of course, you guys understand, Colin Saunders is my guy. I think I would advocate it for us to bring him back. I think he's got more potential. I think he's just a great player. And when I see him on the field, I just feel like it just adds something for our team. He's just a big guy. He's a big presence on that D-line. You know, so I'm a pretty big advocate for us bringing him back. Thershawn Wharton is another guy on the defensive line. They got him listed at a defensive end, which, is he? I don't know. I feel like I haven't really seen him line up a defensive end. I feel like he's a defensive tackle. But yeah, he's kind of another guy where it's like, you know, I feel like maybe he's got a little bit of something. He just hasn't seen the field much, and he's kind of just, I feel like we got a lot of defensive linemen like that. We're just kind of like, I don't know. So I wouldn't be upset if we ended up not being able to bring him back. Joe Fortson, I don't know why it says Joe. Why does it say Joe? Yeah, that's incorrect. I don't know why it says Joe. It should say Jody. It should say Jody Fortson. I love Jody Fortson. You guys already know I talked about him, and I think he's the guy we need to bring back. Absolutely. He's a big red zone threat. And like I said, I think he's a quality player, good enough to maybe be a starter on another football team. You know, he's just fantastic in those situations. I mean, we saw it during the preseason. It was I think it was that play against the Commanders where Patrick Mahomes just threw it up. This dude, he can go up and get it, bring it down in the red zone, and we've used him in that way during the regular season. He's just a threat when he's on the field, you know. So I really like him. Got to bring him back. Love Jody Fortson. Next, we got Shane Buechele. He's our backup quarterback right now. I don't know if we want to stick with him as our backup quarterback, but Chad Henne is gone. I think Shane Buechele just ends up being a guy, if we don't bring him back, I don't feel like anyone's going to really go out and sign him. I don't know if anybody's really looking for a guy like Shane Buechele. I mean, I don't know. He's okay. But I think he might be a guy who just ends up back on our practice squad, if not on our 53-man roster as our backup quarterback, which I would not be upset about. So, not bad. Prince Tega Wing. I'm not gonna try. I'm not gonna try, okay? I don't wanna get that wrong. Honestly, not too familiar with this guy. Not too familiar with what he brings to the table, okay? But sure, let's bring him back, you know, good for depth. And then our final guy, Nick Allegretti. You know, here he is. At one point was a starter for this Chiefs team. He's kind of just been sticking around. You know, he was a guy who did play on our Super Bowl 55 roster, so that's kind of the thing about him. I don't know, maybe want to steer clear from having him on the field, considering the fact that he was a big part of the reason we didn't, you know, have a lot of success in that Super Bowl 55 matchup. But I feel like he's been a serviceable backup. You know, when someone gets hurt, he you know, he comes in. You know, even if it's a tackle. You know, he's got that flexibility. You know, he can you know, kind of fill in wherever he needs to go, and I think he's a good guy to have for depth purposes. So I say bring him back. I mean, he's been on the squad for you know, I feel like at this point just get him back on the team. He's already been on the team for quite a while. So let's just get him back. So that's everybody. That is everybody. Okay, so let me, you know, just let me know what you guys are thinking about each and every one of these players. You know, there's a lot of big names on this list, and I think this is really where Brett Veach needs to buckle down, make the right choices. I mean, I know he can do it, and he's just such a smart GM. You know, so I really do trust him to make these decisions. But hey, Brett Veach, if you're watching for some reason, if you're watching my video, I hope this helps. You know, I'm a guy who, if you couldn't tell, I just love Chiefs football. So I feel like, you know, I'm not trying to steer you in the wrong direction here, Brett. I'm just not. You know, these are what I think would be the best decisions for the Chiefs team. So, you know, maybe you should hire me. You know, I feel like that would be a great investment on your part. You know, just hire me, maybe be the assistant GM. You know, I think that'd be fantastic. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next Chiefs chat. Peace out.